Birdland Tonight is your place for Orioles post-game coverage for fans by fans. All of the hosts on Birdland Tonight are Oriole fans that are either writing blogs or doing podcasts about Orioles. Head on over to birdlandtonight.com to learn more about the hosts and other shows and websites that they're a part of. And head on over to Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch and subscribe, follow, or like, whatever the appropriate thing is, to Birdland Sports. Finally, share, retweet, and tell your friends about Birdland Tonight so that we're all joined into the conversation after every Orioles game this year. We'll see you guys in just a couple minutes. Head on over to the comment sections on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube to start interacting now. We'll see you soon. Did you know Birdland Tonight is also a podcast? Head on over to your favorite podcast app and subscribe to Birdland Tonight to get the audio of this show every morning ready for your commute. Thanks for joining us. We'll get started in just 1 minute. Make sure that you have subscribed to us on your favorite social media. Look up Birdland Sports on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Like, follow, retweet, share. See you in a moment.
Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
Welcome into Birdland Tonight. I am your host, Andrew Stetka from Utah Street Report, joined tonight by Jimmy from Bleacher Birds. Jimmy, aside from the results of that game that we just watched, how are you doing this evening?
Well, aside that game, Sam, I'm doing all right. I'm looking forward to the next game already.
Yeah, which the Orioles will get a quick turnaround. They will be back out there to close out this series against the Yankees tomorrow afternoon at Oriole Park. But before we get to that, got to talk about this one. It is a 7-0 defeat to the New York Yankees tonight. It just didn't go well from the start in this one. Domingo Germán comes out and throws 7 scoreless, gives up 3 hits, strikes out 6, walks just 1. He was really the story of this game tonight for the Yankees. He dominated from the start. What did you see from the Oriole bats in this one, as they simply couldn't get anything done?
Saw a lot of swings and misses. I feel like a lot of these guys we're seeing a lot of low batting averages. We're seeing a lot of low hit numbers, a lot of low power numbers. Maybe it's still the fact that it's early in the season. But it was 80 degrees today, so we can't blame the game on cold weather. They also weren't swinging towards the low part of the strike zone, which all the batters were rather animated during when they were swinging for those pitches or not swinging for those pitches, kind of pointing out where they thought the strike zone should have been. But they're either not aggressive or they're too aggressive. There's no common between.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I thought, even from an aggressiveness versus non-aggressiveness standpoint, I thought Domingo Germán, as much as we don't want to credit this guy because everyone knows his backstory, but I thought he just pitched brilliantly. I mean, he was painting the corners, really locating his pitches. Even Jim Palmer on the Masson broadcast seemed to be a little bit dazzled at the way he was able to hit the edges, had a lot of movement, a lot of swings and misses. Didn't record his first strikeout until the 4th inning. So the Orioles were going up there and being aggressive early on, putting the ball in play. It was all just weak contact. And, when you can't get any runs, you're not going to win a game, obviously. The Orioles did only manage to get 4 hits throughout the entire game. So it's just, it's one of those things that if the bats don't going, it doesn't matter what your pitcher does on the mound. And we will get to Dean Kramer here in a moment, but base hits this evening, from 2 of them from Trey Mancini, including his 500th of his career. We saw there in the 9th inning, Pedro Severino, Ryan Mountcastle, and then DJ Stewart managed to draw a walk. That was all the offense that the Orioles could manage. And this is an offense as a whole that we have seen struggle. I'm curious, Jimmy, what do you think about the way, obviously we came into this season thinking that this lineup for the Orioles might be its strength. It seemed to be, especially even in spring training, and we can take spring training for what it's worth. They're just practice games. They don't count, but this lineup was at least producing top to bottom and able to produce some runs and at least some base runners. But this offense has really been stagnant throughout the first month of the season for the most part.
Yeah, and you've got to look at who we've played already. So we've played the Yankees. We've played the Yankees a couple of times. We've played the Red Sox. We've played Oakland. So we've played some good baseball teams. So we're going up against good pitching. Say the other thing is in spring training, you're seeing a lot of minor league guys, a lot of guys that may or may not make the team, a lot of guys that are working on some different pitches. And now the season started and it's game on. Again, we wanted to go ahead and blame the cold weather at first. I'm still trying to get Ryan Mountcastle to hit a fly ball other than the warning track. And when he does, I will gladly celebrate that and jump up and hit on the wall, and it'll be fantastic. But, it's almost becoming predictable now.
Even the base hit that Mountcastle had in this game, the single, was an infield single down the line to third base that he was able to beat out. A clean single, and that was actually the one that broke up the no-hitter that we all thought we were going to see at one point in this one in the 5th inning. That is just kind of what Domingo Germán had working for him in this one. Michael King came on and pitched the final 2 innings for the Yankees, scoreless as well, obviously. Let's kind of shift it over because the Orioles, like I said, from an offensive standpoint, there was nothing doing. They struck out 8 times, just a couple of base hits. Even with a guy like Cedric Mullins, who went 0 for 4, who came into this game tied for the major league lead in base hits, he couldn't get anything going. Let's talk about the pitching though, because Dean Kramer returned from his brief stint in the minor leagues. Was down there for about 10 days after being optioned following his last start. Of course, everyone kind of freaked out when he was optioned after the last start in Texas, but the Orioles had that weird schedule last week with the 2 off days, the 2 games in Miami. So the 5th starter was simply not going to be needed. So not a big deal. Kramer returns and, kind of wasn't great in this one. It was a lot of hard hit balls. I thought he was just simply not locating his pitches well enough. He goes 4 1/3 innings, gives up 10 base hits, charged with 6 runs. One of those was an inherited runner that Sean Armstrong a lot after he came in. But 4 strikeouts, gave up 2 home runs in this one. What did you make of Kramer's performance in his return from a little bit of a lengthier layoff? Obviously, he was throwing still and with the team still, kind of on that taxi squad, but hadn't pitched in a major league game in about a week and a half.
Well, you hate to say it, but maybe we were onto something when we all overreacted, and I'm using the quotation fingers, which Josh will appreciate on the podcast. But we didn't really overreact when he was sent down. Maybe we reacted appropriately because it just I don't know. Maybe it was something towards his attitude that what do they call it, a blow to his ego that he got sent down, even though it was just again just a baseball move. That
Right.
very well could have caused some sort of a mental ego issue or something of that sort. And he came in, wasn't necessarily as confident in himself as he could have been. And honestly, we saw a lot of hard hit balls tonight. We saw 2 home runs, but every single ball that was coming off that bat seemed like it was being stroked with power, like the complete opposite of what we were seeing from the Orioles.
Not all of them off Dean Kramer tonight, but 8 balls by the Yankees hit over 100 miles per hour. So you're spot on that. Ironically enough, the hardest hit ball of the night came off the bat of Giancarlo Stanton, and it was not his single in the 3rd inning. It was actually his double play in the 1st inning, 119.4 miles per hour off the bat that Michael Franco picked and ended up making a double play out of, which was an incredible play. And I guess if you want to talk about any kind of highlight for the Orioles tonight, that would have been it. Second batter of the game, Stanton comes up and smokes a ball down to 3rd, where Franco is able to make the stop and turn it into a double play. But you're right about that. A lot of hard contact, a lot of hard hit balls, and it just wasn't what you want to see from Kramer. And you mentioned Kramer the last time out against Texas. That was that I believe that Saturday game in Arlington. He threw 4 2/3 innings, which was a season high at that point, and only gave up 1 run on 5 hits. Struck out 6 in that game in that short span. So it was pretty much his best performance to date. But then got optioned, the roster move, the roster manipulation, if you want to call it that. And that's kind of just that's the way it goes sometimes. So I don't know. I don't know that I agree with that. It was a bruise to his ego or something, but perhaps just the layoff in general from actually pitching in a game was something that, these guys we know are creatures of habit and like to be on the mound every few days. And it's not that he wasn't throwing or pitching bullpen sessions during his time, I don't want to say away from the team because he was still around the team, but off the active roster. Maybe that had something to do with it. And then obviously you're coming back to face a Yankees team, which is very potent. I mean, even without the likes of Aaron Judge in the lineup tonight, without the likes of Gary Sanchez in the lineup tonight, this is still a Yankees team that despite the fact that they came into this game tonight with an equal 10-13 record to the Orioles, they are still a potent offense and obviously expected to be American League East champions by the end of the season, perhaps. So this is a good team that Kramer was facing, and he paid for it mightily with missing locations and things like that. So.
Yeah. So Kramer looked how he was. I wanted to talk a little bit about Tyler Wells, though. I thought Tyler Wells was pitching well, ironically enough, up until that home run that he gave up to, of all people, Clint Frazier.
Yeah.
And, Clint Frazier, for what it's worth, he's a Major League Baseball player, but he's not Giancarlo Stanton. He's not Aaron Judge. He's not, all these. He's not the power hitter that we thought that you think of when you see the Yankees. And that was the last person that I expected to go ahead and hit a bomb off of him. So just poor pitch, I think, for that one pitch from Wells. But otherwise, I really liked the way he was pitching tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was the one blemish in the 2 innings he pitched, struck out 2. And I do think the thing I liked about Wells was that he was working quickly. He wasn't, toying around. He was getting the ball, firing it back in, really trying to move things along. Obviously, you'd like to not give up the home run, but those kinds of things are going to happen. I think it's notable too that this bullpen, even though they get the 1 run charged against them tonight with Wells and giving up the home run, this bullpen has been very good. In fact, entering the game tonight, they had a 3 ERA, 5th best in the major leagues. So that's kind of, I think what I was alluding to earlier about the offense and the struggles of the offense. Mm-hmm. It's been very interesting to me that that's the part of this team we all thought would be the strong suit. Instead, it's actually kind of been the bullpen. The bullpen has been, holding its own. And when the starting pitching has been able to go a little bit deeper in games, that's when you've seen the Orioles be able to get some wins. So if Tyler Wells, the Rule 5 pick, can be hidden in that bullpen well enough, like he kind of, gets to come out and throw 2 innings tonight in a blowout game. I think those are the kinds of things you'd like to see a bullpen produce and be able to do over the long haul. And those are the kinds of things. Obviously, the starting pitching will have to be better, but if you want to see the bullpen do good things and continue to do good things, those are the kinds of performances you need.
Yeah, absolutely, Shane. I'm looking forward to see how he develops throughout the season.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I did want to touch on a few quick injuries before we'll take a short break, and then I have some other things to touch on with you. But we got some news today. Anthony Santander probably going to be about another 4 weeks with the sprained ankle, and then Freddie Galvis missed his 2nd straight game after the groin injury. Still hasn't made an injury list move there, but we will have to play that out. Pat Valaika did start his 2nd straight game at shortstop, so and that was an adventure in itself. I can see your reaction to my mentioning Pat Valaika. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned Pat Valaika, and he goes ahead and he fields a ground ball, he makes a little spin move, and you see this so often from guys where they make the spin move, they go ahead, they make the throw. He makes the spin move, he makes the throw. It's in the dirt, nowhere near his target. They're lucky that the ball didn't bounce into the well. Of course, Jim Palmer and Kevin Brown talked about that for about 25 minutes after the fact. But, it just – defense isn't helping us. We seem like we have 1 or 2 good plays a game, and then the everyday plays that you expect to see. I'd love to see the statistic that baseball nerds know about the defense, but it doesn't seem like it's helping us in any of these games right now. And Pat Valaika, I didn't like the call up when it happened originally. I don't like the call up now. I don't know what the answer was, but I don't think it was Pat Valaika.
Well, I can tell you, as I wouldn't call myself one of the baseball nerds, but I do have some stats for you if you want them. They don't come from the infield, however, which to your point, we see some special plays. I mentioned the Michael Franco play early in the game on the hard hit ball from Stanton to turn the double play. That's an incredible play that we can take note of. But you're right. Plays like Valaika made are not what you want. And it is surprising that he didn't give up the extra base because the ball, I think there might have been some netting on that camera well that stopped it from going in or something. It might have been some protective netting. I thought I saw, but
bounce up a little bit.
Yeah, unclear about that. But the Orioles outfield is actually where the defense has kind of come through for them, surprisingly enough. And I don't know if that's even surprising. Because we know that the Orioles have some decent outfielders on this roster, but they've combined for 5 defensive runs saved, according to Baseball Info Solutions, which is tied for the 2nd most in the major leagues behind Kansas City and Boston. So they are, able to. We've seen quite a few instances in the outfield of guys being thrown out, not only at home but around the bases. So I think that is one of the strong points of this team from a defensive standpoint, and some of the things they can do. I want to go back really quickly to the injury thing because I mentioned the outfield. Santander being out another 4 weeks is tough. The other thing that we kind of came out news-wise today about the Orioles, Brandon Hyde spoke a little bit about Ryan Mountcastle and his struggles. And obviously Mountcastle DH tonight, but we've seen him in the outfield. We've seen a little bit of him at first base. What are your thoughts on the Mountcastle of it all? I know we did get a hit tonight, the infield hit we mentioned, but there's been a lot of talk about whether or not you ride this thing out or you try and option him to the alternate site and get him right. Brandon Hyde says he's going to stick with him and let him play through it, but is that something that you agree with or disagree with?
So I'm so glad that you brought this up, say, because again, say we definitely mentioned this in our podcast this week, and we went on for quite a while about this. And I am of the belief of send him down to, as the boys called it, Project Bowie. Let him go ahead and straighten out, and then come on back up. We saw it last year with Austin Hayes. We saw it last year with DJ Stewart. We saw it the extended version with Cedric Mullins, but. Just with what we saw in Hayes and Stewart, clearly they've got some sort of game plan recently of how to go ahead and turn this around for these guys. And I just think that's what Mountcastle needs. He needs that constant focus directly on him, that one-on-one coaching that he needs to have. And really, I'm a believer in Mountcastle, and I have full faith that he can go ahead and he can turn it around. But he needs to step back. He needs to take a breath. He needs to just go ahead and get that focused coaching and then just come back to the game. And there's a spot for him. It's not like he's going to lose his spot. He'll never be back on this team.
Right. And the reason I tie that into kind of the injury discussion is because if Santander is going to be out for perhaps another month, there's obviously there's room in the lineup, like you said. And there's something also to allowing him to DH a little bit more and just focus on the bat. And rather than having to go out and occasionally play left field or first base, and just focus on the hitting side of things and trying to get that right, because obviously it has been a struggle, despite the fact that he, as I mentioned, was able to get a base hit tonight, an infield hit. He still is only hitting 181 on the season, 216 on base percentage. It's not good enough. And we've seen him drop in the order because of it too. So, hitting, hitting sixth tonight. So, hitting seventh tonight. So, that's the kind of thing that's going to happen when you're struggling, obviously. But I tend to think that allowing him to just focus on hitting, whether that's in the DH spot or getting the occasional day off, is something that Brandon Hyde will try to do. And it sounds like they're going to stick it out with him for the time being. And that's especially the case when you've got, like I mentioned, Santander on the shelf right now. And Freddie Galvis is missing time. Not that they play the same position, but there's a need in this lineup, obviously, for something. And I think at this point, Ryan Mountcastle still gives you that ability to run into one. But as you mentioned, the warning track power that he's displayed is, it's been frustrating, but it's one of those things that for a rookie, even though he came out last year, is certainly something to watch out for.
And I'll tell you, I've got another thought too. So, I say it, and I've heard other people say it as well. Other podcasters say it as well, is, why don't we try Mountcastle at second base? Because we don't have a second baseman right now. I want to go ahead and calm myself, basically because there's no need to go ahead and put a kid somewhere where he's not necessarily comfortable, put a player where he's not necessarily comfortable when he's already struggling up at the plate. Now, if he was hitting 300, if he was hitting 330, he's already got 7 home runs, then maybe we can talk about putting him over at second base and trying him out over there, because again, you go ahead, you look at this lineup and what we have an outfield. Depending on what happens with Trey, we have a first baseman. So we don't have a second baseman. There's no second baseman in the wings, with the exception of Gunnar Henderson, who's probably about 2 or 3 years out. So we do need to find a solution there. But again, kind of telling myself this, but everybody needs to calm their jets. And, we're not going to put him at second base right now. He needs to straighten out his bat first before we even start thinking about that.
No, there's no question about that. And it's interesting. Second base was a hot topic in spring training. We talked on the number of Birdland Tonight kind of warm-up shows that we had leading up to the season during spring training about the second base position in general when it comes to not even the 2021 Baltimore Orioles, but the Baltimore Orioles at large going forward and what second base would look like. For me, it's not one of those things that is necessary to rush into, because you are eventually going to find that whether it is Gunnar Henderson or whether it is, a shortstop that the Orioles draft this season or next season, all of these guys that are the top, young players, top young shortstops, they don't always tend to turn out to be shortstops. They become third baseman or second baseman, or they move them to left field or first base. So Those guys that are all, quote unquote shortstops that get drafted as shortstops, well over half of them end up playing a different position. And one of those guys that the Orioles happen to draft in the next few seasons will end up being their second baseman long term, or at least that would be my plan. So I'm not fretting about, not having a quote unquote second baseman on this team right now. I think Rio Ruiz is obviously not doing the job with the bat either, hitting 145, even almost 40 points lower than Ryan Mountcastle at this point. So he's obviously not the answer. But obviously for the short term, it's just plug and play. It's Ramon Urias, it's Pat Valleca, it's Rio Ruiz, it's whoever ends up going over there on a given day. And I agree with you. I don't think you burden Ryan Mountcastle with that kind of thing just yet. So we're going to take a quick break, just a short break. If you're listening live, stay with us, and we're going to come back. And there's one more thing I want to touch on from this game regarding the Yankees, and then we'll look ahead to tomorrow as well. We'll be right back here on Birdland Tonight. Welcome back into Birdland Tonight, recapping this 7-0 loss for the Orioles tonight to the Yankees at Oriole Park at Camden Yards in front of an announced crowd of 7,338 who, got to witness a pretty quick game. This was a 2-hour, 33-minute ball game tonight, which I know you and I are happy about coming on here and being able to kind of wrap things up in a timely manner. But part of the reason that this game was so quick was, as we mentioned earlier, Domingo Germán just was lights out. Maybe got a somewhat favorable strike zone tonight. But the thing that I noticed from this game tonight, I think more than anything, was Kyle Higashioka behind the plate instead of Gary Sanchez for the Yankees, and the way that he framed pitches and received the pitches for Domingo Germán. I think that led to Domingo Germán having an even better game than he could have. And on the contrary, watching Pedro Severino and watching him attempt to catch the ball behind the plate for the Orioles and failing to do so. There was a wild pitch that got away from him tonight that was really, in my estimation, was a pass ball. It was just a ball that was low that he easily should have blocked. Saw a number of instances where Pedro Severino just didn't catch the ball. And this is not specific to this game. This has been a theme throughout the season. And it's even been a theme, when Chance Sisco is behind the plate. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the catcher position from a defensive standpoint. We mentioned defense earlier, talking about, the infield letting things down. The outfield defense seems okay for the most part. We did see DJ Stewart fail to catch a ball properly and allow a tag up from first to second tonight. That was a tough one. But defense for me, the real bugaboo for this team this season has been behind the plate, and it's also hampering the pitching. So what have your thoughts been? I haven't been on Birdland Tonight to talk about this specifically, this element, and I know it's been a hot topic in amongst Orioles fans, talking about just the catching defense.
So I'm ready for Adley. let's just do it. What was the thing? Say we'll do it live. No, I thought Severino played a decent left field today. The fly ball that he
yes, that's true.
Out there. I thought that.
I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. You had me puzzled there for a second. I thought you were. Yes, the catch he made in left field was a nice play.
So he got his one, and then the catcher for New York. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. You can correct me on that one.
Higashioka. I wrote it down phonetically for myself.
So I thought he made a fantastic catch as well. So he makes a catch that, and Jim Palmer and Kevin Brown pointed out that Gary Sanchez certainly wasn't going to make her. If he would have made it, he would have gone ahead and crashed into the wall and ended up on the IL. The difference between those guys clearly was night and day as far as calling the game and pitch framing and, as you said, just receiving the ball. Sisco's no better than Severino. If we're not going to call up Rushman, let's get Austin Wynns up here and let's give him a shot. give me somebody that can call a game. Give me somebody that can receive a pitch, that can catch a pitch. I'm tired of seeing the bouncing balls. We need something different behind home plate.
Yeah, it's been tough to watch. I don't know that Austin Wins is the answer either. We did see Severino leave this game tonight after that play that he made in shallow left field. I don't know if it was related. I've been scouring the Twitter sphere to find out if Severino left the game with any kind of an injury. Cisco did come in and relieve him in that final inning. So we'll have to find out more about whether that is an injury or not. And with the day game tomorrow after a night game, I would expect that Chance Cisco would be getting the start anyway, just to give Severino a day off of his feet. But we will have to see what comes about that. And like you said, Austin Wins is kind of, I guess, the next man up. We were talking a little bit before we came on the air tonight about who the heck else would be the options. Obviously, nobody thinks that Adley Rutschman is getting called up anytime soon, but it does remind me, I suppose, as I watch Orioles baseball in 2021, that, that is one element of this team and of this club that will at least improve once once players start getting called up for the minors, and once this team actually starts trying to win baseball games from a front office standpoint, at least, that Adley Rutschman will be around to become a better, make the catcher position better. Obviously all these other parts of the team that can improve, will be talked about as well, but the catcher position is at least one that we know there is somebody there who is on the horizon to make it better. But it has been a struggle watching what has gone on behind the plate for the Orioles this season. And like I said, we saw more of it tonight. There is some good. Obviously, you mentioned the play that Severino made in left field, but there's been just a whole lot of bad. And it's especially tough because it looks just nonchalant back there, especially in terms of receiving the ball and actually catching the ball or blocking balls in the dirt. It looks, I don't want to use the word lazy, but it looks nonchalant from both Severino and Cisco. It has not looked good. From an effort standpoint. I'm not saying that catching is easy. Don't get me wrong. It's perhaps one of the toughest positions to play in all of sports. Be just the beating that you take and the equipment that you're wearing and being in a crouch position for 9 innings. It's a difficult position to play. But it has looked nonchalant from both guys for the season, and that has been kind of tough to stomach. It's especially tough because as you're watching a baseball game, what are you looking at the whole time? You're looking at the catcher. So you're kind of seeing everything that the catcher does. The catcher is, a super important and centralized focus of the game. But, it's just one of those things that will have to kind of grin and bear until we do eventually get Adley Rutschman, which I still kind of don't think will happen this season. We may see it happen later in the season in September, but I tend to think that is something that doesn't happen until next, probably April or May would be my guess.
Yeah, I'm counting down the days till September as we speak.
Yeah, we all are, even though it is, as we look, April 28th, not even close. But tomorrow we have Jorge Lopez taking the mound, making his 5th start of the season, his 2nd against the Yankees. He will take on the left-hander Jordan Montgomery. It is the finale of this 4-game series. It is a 4:05 p.m. start from Oriole Park. Orioles now 10-14. What are you looking from Jorge Lopez for tomorrow? Obviously, it hasn't been great for him either. This Orioles starting rotation is just trying to get more innings to bridge to that bullpen, which has been pretty good. But what are you looking for from him in his start?
So I'm looking for a bounce back. I'd honestly given up on Jorge Lopez after his first couple starts, and they were a little bit rough, and then all of a sudden he comes back and he has a great start, and then all of a sudden he has it's inconsistent. So I want to see, 4 innings, maybe 1 run, 5 innings, 1 run, something like that. 5 innings, 2 runs. Give me something just an average start. Get us to our bullpen. We only use 3 guys from the bullpen tonight. Get us to the bullpen and let's get through this game, say the big thing that I want to see is I want to see run support for Jorge Lopez. If the bats come out swinging, I think that's going to give him some confidence. Let him go on there and just continue to do his thing, attack the strike zone, because that's what you need to do with these Yankees hitters. You just need to go up there, and you can't be timid against them. You've got to go ahead and attack the strike zone. And if he goes ahead and gets some run support, I think that he can do that.
Yeah, and obviously the Orioles facing Jordan Montgomery, a left-hander. That's something that with so many good right-handed bats in the lineup, perhaps there's an opportunity to do that. I know that Kevin Brown mentioned that on the broadcast toward the end, that the Orioles will be seeing some left-handers in the coming days. They, of course, take on the Yankees in Montgomery tomorrow. Then they head out west to face the Athletics. I know that Sean Manaea is, I believe, scheduled to pitch on the weekend, another left-hander. So we will see some West Coast baseball this weekend. But before that, it is, like I said, the finale tomorrow, 4:05 at Oriole Park with Jorge Lopez and Jordan Montgomery. We will be with you after that game tomorrow. Jimmy, before we get out of here, tell us what you guys got going on over at Bleacher Birds.
So over at Bleach Birds, aforementioned, say we got into a deep conversation of Ryan Mountcastle, essentially Ryan Mountcastle almost versus Austin Hayes. I am a big proponent, big supporter of Austin Hayes. Ryan Mountcastle, I want to see do well, but he's just not doing it right now. And we get into a long conversation about whether or not sending him down to Bowie is the right move or not. So what have you got going on?
Good debate to be had. Utah Street Report for all of my stuff. You can read there. I wrote recently about the retirement of Nick Markakis and about the All-Star Game movement and why folks got their hopes up for that coming to Baltimore, and that was never going to happen. Wrote about that a little while back as well. You can check my stuff out there. Until tomorrow, when the guys will be back with you here on Birdland tonight. For Jimmy, I've been Andrew. Thanks so much for watching. Orioles lose it 7-0 to the Yankees. We will be back tomorrow for the series finale here on Birdland tonight.
Go O's.